Hi there, it's Matthew Lester from the Rhodes Business School again. This is a little chat about some things to consider in the year after graduation. So, we say graduation is all about starting a career and a family. Get out of university, start a life, get a job, and graduate and start working. And we think, well, that's about all there is to it. Unfortunately, a lot of graduates come unstuck with this. Let's have a look at what really happens. Yeah, we graduate and we get a job. And then we start with find a car. Then a salesman says, you need a faster one. Then we say, find some digs. Then an estate agent will tell you to buy your digs. And that's before we start on all the toys, because we've promised ourselves an iPad, an iPod, an iPhone, a Mac, even before we've bought ourselves an iron for our clothes. And then we go ahead and we double that, because in the next 10 years, most will start a relationship. And so we get in-laws, outlaws, babies, divorces, shacked up, knocked up, and the whole lot, all inside of 10 years. And what we find with graduates is this gets them into terrible debt. And that you must watch out for. That's a social disease that leads to the other dreaded Ds. That's divorce, drugs, drunk, down and out, you name it, all sourced with debt. And while this is all going on, we have to look at the particular problems that are facing the new South Africa. There's a graph from National Treasury. If you want to study it in detail, you will find that South Africa has to create another 9 million jobs in the next 50 years. If we don't do that, we will get social chaos. So we need leaders like never before. And what we need people to study beyond just a degree. A degree is just the starting point in your career. But then it gets difficult. Because when one looks at saying, right, I've got a bachelor's degree, what are my options? Well, I can stay within my field of study, and I can do an honours. That will take me another year, and then I can spend another 2 years doing a master's. And if I'm really keen, I can go and do a doctorate. So I can carry on with this for another 6 or 10 years in the same field. The important thing that one gets with graduation is that with a B degree, it gives you an option. At that point, you can change horses midstream. And we can say, right, let's go off and look at other fields of study. We can do a 4-year professional degree or a higher diploma, followed by a master's on a modularized basis, followed by a PhD, if you really want to go that route. The important issue is that we get a chance to change stream when we graduate. When one looks at 4-year professional degrees, those with 4-year professional degrees, they have the option to go straight on to a master's, or they can go the route of entry into an MBA program, which is not a fully research-based project, but rather modularized study. One must also consider that when continuing with a full-time master's, you are looking at full-time study and you're going to have to pay for it. But when one is going the MBA route, one is talking part-time study. That means you can earn while you learn and open the whole world that goes with work-based learning. What are the advantages of work-based learning? Primarily, you're earning. You're not racking up more student debt. You can earn while you learn. That leads to career progression, employer involvement in your studies, and bringing your work into the classroom. That's a whole new world of just carrying on with what we have already done for 3 years. But it also opens up a whole lot of other opportunities. So when one looks at a traditional part-time MBA, it spreads over a period of 3 years with 2 or 3 teaching blocks every year for the first 2 years, and then you will write a dissertation in your 3rd year. However, more and more we are thinking towards the idea of saying, why rush it? You've got all the time in the world to do your professional qualifications. Whether it's 2 years or 3 years, it makes little consequence when one looks at a career spanning 40 years. So the new MBAs are saying, look, there's a conflict between work and study if you try and do it over 2.5 years. But if you want to go over a 3-year period with only 2 modules a year, well then that's another story. We could do it over 3 or 4 years. So what if it takes a little bit longer? it also accommodates your employer because you're not going to be permanently out on study leave. So what we're saying in a business school today is, look, let's try and structure an MBA that fits a career, not a career that fits an MBA. Now, that's part of it. The next question comes, how do you afford it? Now, what we have to do in building this is we have to create a partnership. It has to be a partnership between the student, the university, the employer, and government. We don't want the position where people are continuing to fund themselves. That puts massive strain on their personal lives over and above their study requirements. So what we do is we advise our students to talk to their employers about the benefits of Section 101Q of the Income Tax Act. Now, in general, where an employer pays a debt on your behalf, then it's a taxable fringe benefit. But Section 101Q provides a let-out for that. It allows employers to pay tax-free bursaries on behalf of their employees, and that's to an unlimited amount. So you need to go to your employer and say, I am wanting to discuss the continuation of my career. I am wanting you to structure my bursary into my employment package so that I pay for my fees on a pre-tax basis. That massively decreases the financial commitment to postgraduate study. Now, in the past, employers viewed bursaries as just being a tax scheme or maybe a recruitment tool. Today, we are looking at bursaries as a retention strategy where we say to employers, if you get involved with the future studies of your employee, it's likely they'll stay there longer. But, Mr. Employer, I want to tell you something. I've got further incentives available to you as an employer. Let's look at them quickly. Mr. Employer, you must look at the BBBEE scorecard. Why? Because a major part of the scorecard is devoted to skills development. And any employer today has to achieve a sub-minimum within the skills development category. And if you go into what constitutes BEE expenditure, you can tell your employer that bursaries for previously disadvantaged people definitely qualifies as BEE spend. So you're scoring points because you are paying bursaries rather than salaries. And then you can go even further and say, Mr. Employer, you pay something called SETA levy on your payroll. That's paid over to the various SETAs in South Africa, and it is then spent on skills development. And within the SETA program is what's called the Pivotal Skills Program. Now, the Pivotal Skills Program allows the employer to claim back very nearly 50% of their SETA levies. And this can be done where you sponsor academic or professional study. So there's even a refund to go with the tax benefit, to go with the BBBEE benefits. So what we are saying is there is a way to look at more efficient postgraduate study. And it definitely suits part-time study. You're working and you are in a partnership between the student, the university, the employer, and the government, all chipping together to solve South Africa's problems. So there you have it. One mustn't look at continuing education only on the basis of full-time study or only on the basis that you are going to have to pay it and extend your student debt. Get out there, get a job, get a life, but keep in contact with your university through part-time study. I'm Matthew Lester at the Rhodes Business School. Thank you for your attention.